You can't hear me, huh? Get your ears checked. No, just welcome to Breaking the Silence pre-premiere show, which is where I babble before we watch tonight's premiere, which is about the park. But before we go into the park, there's something I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, there he goes again. Um, I was informed this morning through Ciro that there is going to be this big disclosure event that Danny Sheehan's uh, people are putting on, and they listed it's like it's an online Zoom type thing, which is great, and they're asking people to sign up. They say it's for free, but I didn't try signing up or registering. I don't know for sure. Once you get that far, it's for free, but you've got all these guest speakers, half of which I don't even know who they are. And one of the things I noticed listed with all the guest speakers is that not one person, hi, Dr. Gale, not one person has these experiences. And yet they are going to talk about this stuff. But what I've noticed with so much of the disclosure movements is that they don't include us. And I was talking to Whitley about it this morning. And, um, we're the ones that knows what's going on. We're the ones that have interactions with these visitors. We're the ones they chose, and we're part of this whole thing. And these people are on the outside who have a real interest, vested interest in this stuff. Some are purely because they think it's important. Others think it's important. Plus, hey, I can make money off of this and get famous. And so it's a mix. But the one constant that Whitley and I both notice is that basically the experiencers who claim to have been on board their craft and interacting with this intelligence are kind of pushed to the back of the room. You can watch us, but you don't have a voice. And I said to the group, I said, I don't see anybody here who's an experiencer listed in these speakers. And they should have Yvonne Smith, who herself is an experiencer, as well as someone who works with experiencers, and Whitley Strieber, who is a very good spokesman for all of us, because certainly I speak for myself, but we are very much in synchronous about what we think this whole phenomenon is about and what our interaction with the visitors is for. And again, I'll repeat myself again. I've repeated myself so many times about this. Jacques Vallée, yes, back in the 90s, told me, just like in the movie Close Encounters, that this whole experience is about us. It's not about the people on the outside looking in. So I just needed to get that off my chest because it was bugging me. There were other things that Mary wanted me to bring up. I know one of them was jumping right off the subject we were just talking about, was about where is it? Come back to me. Is about this, our poster, which is available. And Mary, where is it available? I know she's listening. Mary. And this poster, of course, is my artwork, and this is the craft I saw fly over our house back in 2017 while I was on the phone with Whitley Strieber, of all people. And it's available somewhere. I'm not sure where. I think you can write to us or something like that. I think Mary's trying to find the link. So that's something that we've been pushing, and I plan to do more artwork. And in fact, I'm currently working. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Mary. I'm currently, my voice is cracking. I am currently working on a book. This will be the first book, probably in a series of books with my artwork. I've done so much artwork on this subject, starting back as far as the late 70s, and was probably in the 80s is really when I first started doing the visitors the way we see them today. And by the 90s, Yvonne was using those, and UFO Magazine was using those, and even High Times asked me to do a cover, and many other magazines. And suddenly the classic image of the almond-shaped eyes wrapped around the side of the head, the pointy chin, and the big balloon head spread like wildfire throughout the country. And I never, um, basically, I never made any money from it. I didn't think about that. And, but I didn't also get any credit for it. So after all this time, I decided to give myself credit and take claim to that and do a book that documents that and shows the artwork going way, way back up to present day. And Whitley, if you're listening, would like to get a forward from you. You wrote a forward for one of my books. Which one?
Is stuck.
The poster is stuck? No, it's down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now we've been having glitches. Magically, my camera will get turned off. Then it gets turned back on again, and it has nothing to do with the software that I can see or me or anything else. We certainly had that yesterday. I do remember that Mary wanted me to bring up about this business that Jesse Beltran talked about yesterday. At first, when we were going to have Jesse on, I was keeping an open mind. I wasn't really sure about him, but after having him on the show, I understand, and I got a great feeling from him that he's a very sincere person that really has a vested interest in our well-being. And he doesn't suggest that everyone who's having these experiences are being brainwashed by government's implants. I was very skeptical of the government having that kind of technology that was nano, that was so tiny that it could be literally injected into you or given to you in water or whatever, and have it multiply and attach itself. But on his website, there is lots of documentation and photographs and all kinds of stuff to show that this experimentation has been done with prisoners, incarcerated, and other people. And it looks like they certainly have it and have had it for a while. But I want to underline, as he does, that not every one of us is having experiences or hearing visitors talk to us in our minds, and that's being caused by government implants, because if you really think about it, what would be the point? But and if you're but if you are, and this is what Mary was talking to me about while I was driving our Fiat to the studio, if you are experiencing uneasiness, things that you could relate to Havana syndrome and sickness and illness and headaches and stuff, you can contact Jesse, and you can get a scan. Now they have this scanner that will scan and find out if you have these types of implants in you. And when I was looking at the implants on the show last night, which was really fascinating, at first I really didn't want to do the show, but he presented himself so well and so credibly. And what I saw, I was very relieved about, because when I was with Roger Lear, and I was there many times, and so was Whitley, we were there together watching the surgeries happen and watching these implants being pulled out of people. And although they were similar in a way to what Jesse Beltran was showing us, they were not the same at all, really. They were clearly of a different form of manufacturing. But if you know that these implants have disappeared once they've been taken from people, and they have, who got them? Most likely our government, and they gave them to the scientists, and they back engineered them, and that gave them the ability to make their own form of implants, which are similar but clearly not the same, not visually, and certainly not in their capability. But if we go back even further to Roswell, if you watched Whitley and his very different review of Lou's book, and it really is, it was, his commentary about this whole thing was amazing. The thing that grabbed me the most was him saying that Roswell was a gift. A gift. I know what you're thinking, some of you. What the heck? What do you mean a gift? Well, we were given not only technology from them, we were also giving their physical form to do analysis on. And Not many people think about that. They think about the technology that, in my opinion, has affected every piece of technology and electronics we have today. That suddenly there was an explosion in the 60s once we had the ability to analyze the technology very well, that at breakneck speed went from the Commodore VIC-20 to what we have now, which is just extraordinary, when for thousands of years prior to that, we never advanced at all. We didn't. So the gift, I got a feeling, was also an experiment and one, or a test. I digress. It's a test. And it's a test that our people failed. With Roswell crash, with the bodies, we could have taken the things we learned and could have made this a better world. We could have given freely of the technology that powered that craft, which was probably zero-point energy, that allowed for anti-gravity, got off fossil fuels. It would have completely changed where we are today. Yes, we'd be just advanced, maybe even more so, because those bastards are holding them back on us. And this world would not be where it is right now. But they got greedy and they thought they could weaponize it and use it against their enemies. And Mary was watching a show this morning that I could hear in the background, and all I heard was war machine, making better weapons. China's making the most gunpowder. They have the most gunpowder. They're making all the shells and all the bullets and stuff for all the other countries, and they're not giving them to all the countries. And these countries are fighting in Ukraine, and then all I hear is war, kill each other, kill each other, kill each other, kill each other. So, like I said, Roswell was a test, and we failed. So, what's the next step? Again, in Yvonne's support group, which I'm a member of, CIRO. I've been a member since it formed. Certainly just after it was formed. Yvonne and I have known each other all these years, and I'm privy to everything that goes on in that group. I get private emails all the time that only go out to the group, and I get to hear the things that are being said. And I also talk to Whitley often. And there are some things that he shares with me I can't share with you because I guess he's going to put them in his new book. And plus, he didn't tell me I could. But one thing I do know is that when things reach the pinnacle of never returning, how we're treating our planet and each other, that's when the visitors were really supposed to get involved and make themselves known. How, I don't know, but I suspect it's through us. And one of the things that was said by two different people separately in the support group, were that we, meaning us who have these experiences, would be protected as best we could be because something else was going to happen and those people wouldn't be protected. And I'm talking about the 1%, the ones that think they're above everybody on earth because of their wealth and power. They have no idea what real power is, but from what I've been hearing and what I know myself, they're about to find out. And I don't know exactly what that means because it's all been very cryptic, not showing with this everything that they're going to do. But I know one thing. I wouldn't want to be them. And I hope they can protect us. So, Justin, you believe that's exactly right? Uh-huh. Well, that's another thing. I wasn't on there. A lot of you watched last night's show, and a lot of you became concerned, and I understand. It was really scary stuff, but he's doing this research, and there's really some truth to it. But at the same time, the question I asked him at the end of the show was about, have you ever considered that the people who have these experiences, so many of them, they're okay. They're maintaining their lives. They're going to their jobs. They're taking care of their families. They do other things besides talk and think about this stuff, and they're okay. But they have implants. Did you ever think that maybe those implants were part of that protection we were told about? Because I think it is. I know many, many, many times the visitors have had influence on people who have been ill. Not always, but they have. And one particular lady I know of who had polio and was permanently damaged from it. One day she appeared at a conference down in San Diego, and she didn't have braces on anymore, and she walked as normal as can be. So think about it, because it would just seem that what I've been dealing with, and many of the rest of us have been dealing with, has been the good guys, for lack of a better description. And maybe those bad guys that you think you have in your life, or you may have in your life, is the real bad guys, are people, not beings from other dimensions, other realities, or other places in our universe. So, yeah, they did look different than Rogers, and I saw plenty of them, and yeah, and they were made of meteoric material, which means that the metal came from meteors. That's a good trick. And although they do fall on the earth, but they're very tiny, and they also, once where they were looked into, had nanotechnology inside of them. I know this for a fact. So let's see. What, I'm just looking through the comments. Huh. Lady Jedi. Jesse Long had one in his knee, had removed, and that one was crystal. And he's not the only one that's had crystal type implants. And I actually saw that implant of Jesse's, and it was amazing. It was what's amazing is he got it back, because it went out for analysis, and they went to a laboratory, and he actually got it back. That's very unusual. So, the Mac Geek. Yes, I remember that icon Mac right there. At the time, my roommate had one of those. I had a Commodore 64. Well, I hear the word abduction all the time, and I did write an article that was on my Substack. I'm hoping you read it. I put a link to it in the community section. It's on our forum webpage, the forum for experiencers, and it's on my Substack. And briefly, to make a briefly tell you what I wrote about, was that one of the things that people, there goes my camera again. Isn't that something? Yeah, I love that. Oh, I don't know what that's all about. There, I got it back. I found a little trick. What I was talking about before that happened is that a lot of people take this very personally, and I understand that. I certainly did in the beginning. But as time went on and I stayed with it, and I actually started to get a form of communication with the visitors, I learned of a different perspective than I had been thinking. I found out, according to them, I'm not a victim, I'm a participant, that many of us agreed before we were ever born on this planet to do this, to be part of this project. And this project was to fully understand what it is to be human, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And most importantly, to understand our emotions, our ability to love, our ability to feel pain, our ability, what it's like to suffer, which means having diseases and ailments and all of it that goes with it. From their perspective, this body is not who we are. From their perspective, their bodies aren't who they are. And from what I know, and again, Whitley talked about this as well in that same book review, Lou's book recently. It's on his channel. It's not that way with them. When their physical form fails or break down or dies, they simply move to another body. And that's how they look at it, because that's how it's always been. They understand this clearly, and we don't. Whether you've had abduction experiences or you were a contactee or whatever it is, you simply don't have that perspective. But if you stop and think about what is it like to have that perspective, then it would really change a lot. So what I know and what I wrote about, and you can read it, was literally came from them, if I'm to believe it. Either that or I've got an implant in my brain and the government's feeding me false information, but I don't think so. And that is, and certainly they wouldn't come up with something like this. I don't think they're that smart. But yeah, we're part of this. So many times people have said to the visitors, what gives you the right to do this, to come in my home and take me out of my bed and abduct me during the night and put me back? You know, why would they even bother to put you back? But they do. And they say every time, we have every right. And that's been mystifying people since the 90s. It's even in my film, The Visit, when the character that Billy Scudder plays says, what gives you the right? And they said, we have every right. At that time, I knew that expression, but I didn't quite get what they meant by it. So this is a real different perspective than most people are considering, because it's so crazy. Well, what do you mean? You before you were born on Earth, you were put here by them and put in a human form into a womb of a fetus and born with your memory inhibited, so you wouldn't recall anything about your past to make it a good experiment. You know, if you remembered, hey, I'm an alien and all this stuff, you wouldn't know what it is to be human, because we're born and we don't remember. Many of us don't remember our past lives. But you'll find as you get older, you might. And I also believe that a lot of us, as we get older, are coming to understand that we did agree to something. And that's another point. How is it that I got email from the NSA and the CIA back in the 90s, about 98, right in there, telling me I agreed not to talk about this, that I was violating an agreement. And then I got approached by a CIA agent, an older gentleman, in the dark at a MUFON meeting while I waited for my turn to go up and give a lecture and show my artwork. And he comes up to me, very nice, shows me his ID, which I could barely make out in the dark, but I could make it out. And he said, what are you doing here? You know you're not supposed to talk about this. Well, when I was a little kid, I remember being told not to talk about this, but not by them. It was by the visitors themselves, because it was really in my best interest not to talk about it. Not just because it would draw attention to them, that not that anybody would believe it, but it would be very bad for me. I might be sent away or taken to a shrink and analyzed and told your kid's crazy, and they put me on drugs, any number of things. So yeah, I kept it secret. So this was a deal that I made, as many of you may have also made, to not talk about this stuff. How is it that the CIA and the NSA and those guys, how does it they know about that agreement? What did they do to find out about it? Or are some of them involved themselves, and that's how they knew about it? I don't know. That's a big question mark for me, but they did know about it. But when I first got asked that, I thought to myself, I never made an agreement with any of these people not to talk about this. I wasn't thinking about the agreement I made when I was a kid. So this is all food for thought, because it's easy to have a perspective and feel that you're a victim and that you've been abducted and they had no right to do this. But maybe it's just that they are trying to do something to make our world better for us and our lives better all along that we never considered before. We've been taught to be suspicious of anything that's not us. We've been taught to have suspicion of anyone who doesn't look like us. And I'm talking about other human beings. And that's why we fight and have wars and everything. It's terrible. It's got to stop. And I think, in my case, the visitors I'm dealing with want to see that come to an end. So we'll see what happens. 5 years from now, we may still be talking about something's coming and it hasn't come yet. But I'm just telling you what I know, what's my truth, how I feel about this whole thing. And sometimes I find it annoying when people say, oh God, they're terrible. They're just the worst things in the world. They're abducting us against our will and doing all these terrible things to us. And it's really, it sounds like we're talking about human beings and what they do to each other and the animals on this planet and nature and everything else. We too easily forget that we're not the good guys necessarily. You guys are. Many people are. They're good people. So, and they have a right to thrive and survive. Strieber says that everyone sees female aliens, but I've known Whitley since 1990 when he called me up one night. We've been friends ever since. We talk every week, every day sometimes, and I've never heard him say that, but maybe I missed it. Sure, I've seen females, but I never think about the males because I've only dealt with one in particular, as he did, all my life. That definitely seems female, but it may be just doing that to make it more comfortable for me. I don't know. PhD in suffering. I hope not, Anne. Women see female as well. He said it last night with his guest. Yeah, you guys got to understand, it's very difficult for me to keep up with the other podcasters and stuff. And for the most part, most of them are in it for being clickbait and getting lots of views and, getting lots of revenue from YouTube. And, yeah, maybe they're interested in this subject, but they really don't have our back. They have their own back. And Whitley's not that way, and I'm not that way. And there are others like Mr. Green or Mr. Gray, who are involved in this because they are very sincere about their involvement and wanting to help other people, and we help each other and we form a community. But a lot of the other shows I'll watch a little bit of, like, well, I'm not going to name names because if I do that, who knows what the legalities are. But there are certain ones that are quite prevalent. About Mary making the Heckle Piranha. So, I mean, it's obvious who that is, but I'm still not going to say their name or his name. But a lot of these people have sold out because they get offered money and advertising and stuff that, and then I don't. That's just so wrong. So there's so much I miss. But we're so busy doing this all the time, Mary and I. It's really hard to find time to watch stuff like that. And when we do have the time to watch Whitley, and we do watch some of his shows, I don't watch all of them. Sorry, Whitley. I doubt he watches all of mine, but he watches some of them because he comments to me directly when I strike a chord with him. It's hard to. So, but I do know that Whitley is absolutely sincere. I've been with him when things are happening, so I know his experiences are real. And for Christ's sakes, we go for drives at night to go to dinner because he would just show up in Granada Hills and bang on my door. Who's here? God darn it. Nobody called. And I open the door. Hi. It's what we go off to Denny's or someplace like that. But as we're driving along, street lights would be going out that we went underneath, and we would joke about who did it. And that brings me to something else. I know some people are very uptight about people who can laugh about this. And Whitley and I often, in fact, even on the last show we did together, we giggled a lot about this stuff because it's if you can't laugh about something, I don't know, it just doesn't seem right to me. I mean, if you take things too seriously, I know a lot of bad things happen as a result of this, and our lives are turned upside down, and divorces and family, all this stuff, and jobs. But it's still just so crazy sometimes that you can't help but laugh. And we don't laugh because we're disrespectful. We laugh because sometimes we just simply need to cheer ourselves up. And then there was complaints about people at conferences selling stuff, and some of it's so tacky and so bad. Yeah, I've seen it. But I've sold stuff myself. I had Dreamland Effects back in the 90s, and some of you will remember it. I had a catalog, and I had things like the communion bust in it. And that communion bust is very authentic and very much exactly to the book cover, if you've ever seen it up close. And it has details that only Whitley and I were aware of. They're in it. You see it up close. It has very fine wrinkles all through it because she's very, very old. And I offered those, and Whitley would sign them. And I sold T-shirts with communion on it, and I sold masks. I made masks for sightings, the TV series. I had busts. Chris Carter has 2 of my busts. I found that out when I first met him. He had bought them for me. I didn't know who he was at the time when he sent me a check. Who's Chris Carter? Just another person, you know. And later I found out who he was. That was amazing. And but my stuff was based on what I knew and other people and working with Yvonne. And so, but yeah, was I trying to make some money? Yeah, I was, because, you know, when I went public with this, you can only imagine what many people in the motion picture industry thought of me and how that affected my job. And so my little business of Dreamland Effects really helped me keep the rent paid. And that's about all it did, but that was that and food on the table, which was important. So if you're going to do something like that and give all your time to this subject and have your life turned upside down, you better have some sort of income. But then someone started interfering with my mail and sending back the checks and the letters that were sent to me with the money in it to no such address. That's another story. We found that out later. And then, of course, people called from the studios and said that men in official capacity came there and recommended that I didn't work with me anymore because it wasn't in their best interest, because I was a federal criminal. And it goes on and on and on. So making things based on this subject matter and offering for sale, whether it be an art book like I'm doing now, or offering this poster, which we can't see. Why is that? How come when oh, you know what? The wrong camera's on. Whoa, this just keeps getting weirder. Let's get the right camera on. Camera. No, we want that camera. There. Geez, you see the difference? One was the laptop camera, and the other one is a professional high-end webcam. So look at the difference. Yes, that. I was wondering. It looked odd to me. So yes, that's what I've been doing. Steve, I'm so sorry for all you've been through. And you know, it's fine, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And Mary and I were talking about that not too long ago, and I said, you know, if I had the opportunity not to have been the person I am and have gone through what I've gone through with this whole experience, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't change it, because it's made me a curious person. It's made me someone who is in connection with my universe. I feel it inside and out, and the stars at night. And I would never want to be a person who didn't have that. I mean, I often think, and Mary gives me trouble about it sometimes, is that, I always wonder, how many people actually ever look at the sky, whether it be night or day. Just look up at the clouds. Look what's going on up there. Notice the birds flying. And at night, look at the stars and see the things you and I have seen going across that we can't explain, that are clearly not airplanes and stuff. People in general, somehow they've been diverted from ever looking up. There's that movie. And they just don't look at the sky. And in fact, I have this feeling if you stopped them on the street and asked them about it, they would look very confused at you and wonder how that had any significance, why that was important. It's extremely important, because that sky above your head out there, oh my God, what's going on out there? It's going down in here too. So, Rachel, thank you, Rachel. Do you think that, I think experiences are about soul growth? Well, yeah, I do. I mean, if visitors are right and our spirit never ceased to exist, then we're continually learning and growing. And that's got to be like the quest. We'll never know everything. And if we did it, then life would become pointless, I think. So, I mean, as much as I know, and I've been to the park. Now, here we go. What the subject of tonight's show. And I wasn't really able to do exactly what I wanted with the park. Couldn't quite get the feeling I got from what I did, but it's close. I've been there more than once, but there was this one particular time that I was there that was so vivid, and just I remember breathing the air. I remember feeling the dirt under my feet. I remember all of it. I remember the pretty ladies with the silver hair standing at the place where these big silver buses landed, and I remember their upside down wings. I also remember going there and talking to my dad on a park bench. There were lots of park benches in the park. And the next show I'm going to do is about my experience I had with Judy, who's my girlfriend. She was 24 and I was 26. And this was back in the 70s. It is truly, I call it the gift because it was a gift. What she did for me was the thing that, it didn't change my life, but it added to it so much that I knew that when we passed, when we died, we didn't cease to exist. And I knew it absolutely for sure. And I had absolute solid evidence for myself that actually occurred. So, and that's going to be next. But I didn't go to the park with her. I was somewhere else, and that was probably the edge between here and the park, which is only one level. Evidently, if you study people who have come from the other side and spoke to people here on Earth and were recorded even, you'll find that over and over again, they talk about this place, this middle ground between here and there. That is, it's like being here. I mean, you have a body, you can talk. There are animals there. There's blue sky. There's homes. There's houses. But evidently above that are many other levels. And of course, we've heard Robert Monroe talk about that, for those of us who have read Journeys Out of the Body and Further Journeys and know about the Monroe Institute. When I read those books, I could so well relate to the experiences I was having when I slept at night, because obviously I was leaving my body, I thought, and going to these other levels. But that particular level between here and there is a place that evidently you can stay in if you want. You don't have to come back. You don't have to ascend to the higher levels. because it's a very beautiful place, and you might want to just stay there and rest for a while. Let's see. Do any of? Oh, okay. Thank you, everyone who's become a member. Oh, thank you, Mary. Yeah, truly, thank you for the few of you that have become supporters of the channel, who become YouTube members and Patreon members. It really helps us uh, to know you care that much, that you want to support us. It'd be great if we had more, but we're not people pushing that all the time and asking for it, because it takes away from what we're trying to do, which is, I'm sorry that we have commercials in our shows, but we do. And that's something that YouTube will always do, whether we monetize or not. So, we're lucky to see $200 or $300 a month from those commercials. We'd be zero if we didn't monetize. So your support through Patreon, your support by becoming a member, a YouTube member, or by buying a poster, my book that's going to come out pretty soon. It helps. Every little piece helps to go. We're going to keep going regardless, whether we get that or not, until somebody shuts us down, or, my eyes grow 2 X's and my tongue sticks out and I flop on the floor, because that means I went away to the park. But until then, we're going to stay right here. There was a question. Do you think the visitor characters are from classical Greek, Roman myths? Do you have any? I'm sorry. Do any of you have visits from characters? Well, I certainly haven't. I don't think. The thing I've noticed lately, for quite a while now, is I rarely see the Greys. What I see are people that pass for human, but they're not. I know they're not. They're just odd looking in the experiences I've had lately. That is to say, they're not unpleasant to look at. They pass on the street, but I don't know why I haven't seen the Greys much. A little bit, a couple of 2-3 months ago when we were staying here during the flood. But I've had that mix all along. In fact, in the park, you'll see no Greys. I never saw a Grey when I was in the park. So, have you ever seen a ghost? Yeah, I talked about that. My grandfather, if you've watched the film, But Something Is There, and I highly recommend it. And we did this film back in 2017. We finished it in 2018. It's based on my experiences through my life. It's also based on the book I wrote, which is on Amazon. Let's see where. Well, that's the book cover, but the movie, the book cover was taken from the movie poster. And walking with my grandfather late at night, as you can see I'm doing here, used to take me out all the time. He was from Ireland. We saw a large orange ball in the sky, and it hovered over us. It was amazing. It's in the film, that whole scene. But one of the things I didn't talk about in the film, and I wish I had, was we saw a ghost. There was a well on the property that was derelict, and the property was derelict. It was a farmer's property out there in Santa Venetia, long since abandoned. And evidently he fell in the well and drowned and died down there. And we're walking past it, and I saw this shimmering humanoid, like through a heat wave, glowing white form. And my grandfather saw it too. He had seen it before, but he was, he neither hoped I would see it or didn't see it. We just happened to that night. And I'm also very sensitive to spirits of people who have passed on. If I unexpectedly go into a home that's haunted, 9 times out of 10, I will know it. And sometimes it's like the spirit or spirits, they know I have the ability to sense them, so they'll come over to me and start talking to me. The last time it happened was a girl, and she pleaded with me because the house had been turned into a store, and there were all these people in there looking at tchotchkes and stuff, and she was distressed that no one could see her, and she knew I could for some reason. It was really sad, and I had to get out of there because I was with people who wouldn't have understood. So yes, to answer your question, I have seen ghosts. So, and those are crows outside. My goodness. Okay, so back to the comments. You found an amazing Close Encounters t-shirt, third kind, today at Aaron's Alley. Coincidentally enough, it was wearing my dinosaur UFO palm trees. Huh. Well, yes. We are having a CE5 meditation. What that means is that we're going to do a group meditation that's some people will be at our home, but we're also going to be on Zoom, I believe, right, Mary? With people from around the world meditating on having contact with the visitors. And it's been often said by Whitley and others, myself included, the best way to speak to them is through meditation, which means to quiet your mind, turn inward, turn outward, and listen. And lately, when we do meditation in the morning before yoga, I'm being talked to. And of course, I asked the question, how do I know it's not my own mind doing this and it's you? And the answer was amazing. It really was. I talked about it the other day. Mary says I need to stop repeating myself. So I think many of you will remember what I had to say, but it was kind of unnerving at first because, you wonder if the cheese is slipping off the cracker. But I think I am hearing it. And what's really interesting is that in meditation, I'm not thinking anything. And I just, all of a sudden, I hear, it's not even a voice. It's a communication. It just comes in and it starts telling you things, and you can ask a question and it'll answer it. So I really do believe that meditation is probably one of the best forms of communication with the visitors. And sometimes it can be very visual too, and you'll get these flood of images of things that are just amazing. I'm reading comments. That's why I'm going quiet. So we're coming up on about 10 minutes till the show's starting. So, geez, I want to thank so many of you for being here for this pre-premiere show. It seems to be on the grow. And I want to thank the new people who have joined us and are here tonight for the first time, or maybe it's the second time you've come back. Thanks for coming back. We really are here for you. And, we're helping each other as much as Mary and I want to help you be more comfortable with this and have better lives as a result, maybe understand a bit more about what's going on. It also helps us. It helps me to be able to talk to you. And that's why I love you all so very much, because it's just, you can't talk about this stuff to anybody. You can't. And here we are live, and I know a lot of people will watch this and think, well, the guy's crazy and all that. It doesn't bother me in the least. It used to. Doesn't anymore. You know why? Because my interaction with all of you, it really helps. Thank you. I love you guys a lot, and I really hope you enjoyed tonight's show. And again, thanks for being a supporter. Thank you, Anne. Thank you. Thank you for being a supporter, whether it be monetarily or just showing up and being part of this conversation. It's really important. It doesn't matter. But if you can, subscribe to our YouTube channel or become a patron. Patreon, one of those. And we really appreciate you. Good night.